Taking a look at the big result today. AC Milan beating Inter 3-0, meaning they are through to the final of Coppa Italia, awaiting the results of course, the game on Thursday as well. We've been talking about Inter, waxing lyrical about their performances of late in the Champions League, and of course to face Barcelona. Some even have them beating La Liga leaders. However, their form just seems to have fallen apart of late. They've opened the door, of course, for Napoli to catch them at the top of Serie A. They've just won 2 of their last 7. More on this from Don Hutchison. Don, let's just focus on today's result, shall we? How big a surprise is that?
I mean, the scoreline's a surprise, don't get me wrong, but in terms of Milan beating Inter the season, they beat them at the start of the season. They drew with them at the midway point in the season as well. So it's a strange one where you look at the Milan squad, because it's probably one of the worst squads they've had in decades, turning an Inter over side who are very, very strong, barring Jan Sommer and a couple of other players like Thuram who wasn't fit. So the scoreline's a surprise. Conceição's been really struggling. It just goes to show the job that Pioli done. And he won titles there, then they sacked Fonseca, and Conceição's probably going to go at the end of the season. So this might have saved his job in the short term, but not in the long term. They'll probably fire him in the summer. But I've got to say, the scoreline I didn't see coming. I've worked on Milan games at the weekend, and they were awful against Atalanta. They got schooled when they lost that game. But I wouldn't really say Inter are out of form in terms of Serie A form, Dan. 1 loss and 8. Napoli 1 loss and 7. So the two sides that are going for the Scudetto, they're very much in form. So it's a title race. That's fascinating.
How can you be in form if you've only won 1, 2 of the last 7, Don? What am I missing?
Because I said in Serie A they've only lost 1 and 8.
Right, but they lost 7 matches. They've only won 2. Which
it depends. Yeah, but it depends on how you want to spin it. If you look at Serie A form, 1 loss and 8. It's not poor form. It's at a time of the season where every single, and if you take the 4 teams that are in the Champions League semi-final, 3 dropped points this weekend, barring Barca, and they were lucky. I didn't think that was a penalty when they won 4-3 against Celta. I thought they got very lucky. So you could have been seeing a scenario where all 4 teams that are in the semi-finals of the Champions League all drop points. So I don't think Inzaghi's panicking. I think there's still plenty of football to play for. The fascinating thing, as I was going to say, was this goes down to head-to-head. And they Napoli and Inter both drew their games 1-1 in both games. So actually this goes down to a playoff at the end of the season, which would be amazing, really. I mean, if you've seen a championship playoff or a Scudetto that went to a playoff, would be pretty incredible. It happened, I think, Verona, Spezia a couple of years ago, 2 teams that were going down. So it's going to be amazing. You see the run in there. Inter, by far, have got the harder run in. They've got Roma and Lazio, which are tough games. And Como are a pretty distant side who's picking up points. Where Conte's men, Torino is probably their hardest game. After that, Lecce, Genoa, Parma and Cagliari, all teams down at the bottom. So honestly, you look at it and you look at the title running and the fixtures that both teams have got, you'd have to say Napoli would be favourites. But if you take Scott McTominay and Lukaku out of that team, there's not a lot of players that are in form in terms of scoring goals. So Inter have got the best squad. It's can they use it? So now it's about the bottle time now in the running. Who's got the most bottle and who's got the deepest squad?
Didn't Arsenal win 4-0 at the weekend, Don?
Well, they dropped points tonight. So PSG dropped points against Norwich.
Hold on.
So all 4 teams in the semis have dropped points apart from Barca.
We're going to England and I'm going to go to Spain. You didn't think you didn't think the challenge on Dani Olmo was a penalty?
We can't do the Dani Olmo challenge now.
No. At the end.
You're talking about
I thought it was a penalty.
2 players ran into the back of him.
I was not expecting
I
this.
never thought it was a... Hey, I'm just saying the 3 teams out of the 4 have all dropped points in the last few days. Fact. That's a Rafa fact.
Don, I'll be honest. I have completely lost track of where the hell we are. What are we talking about?
PSG are already champions, but anyway, right. Anyway.
What are we trying to sell it? We're trying to sell an Inter win here?
What I'm trying to... What I'm trying to get down to the root of, Don, is you've seen Inter more than most, yeah?
Yeah.
Our premise is that it's going to be very difficult for Barcelona to break this Inter side down. However, you look at their form of late, and there seems to be vulnerability there that maybe we don't expect.
Which is fair. Which is very, very fair. Inter are a side that I think when you watch them, Dan, they are very pragmatic. We saw that when they went to the Allianz and won there. I thought the draw there in winning San Siro, but they'd done enough at the Allianz. I think they're looking for the bigger picture, Dan. They're a team that's been in the Champions League final when City beat them. I think they want this Champions League final. You can look at the league form and the last run of games, and you might say the draws they've had maybe have cost them. They've only, as I said, 1 loss and 7. That was against Bologna in the last minute of the game last weekend. So I think you're looking at two sides where you can stick a pin in all 4 and say, who's the favourite? Any one of them can win it. I think they'll beat Barca because Barca play the most ridiculous high line of any of the 4 teams. So if Inter are strong and they've got runners that can run in behind, Fratese's a good runner from midfield, Barella, Lautaro Martinez, I don't think Thuram's going to be fit. So there's plenty of weapons that they've got. But as we know, when you watch Barca, and we just done the clip on Yamal there and Lewandowski and Rafinha, they're a team that can hurt anyone. So I try not to sit on the fence on this one, but all 4 sides can win this because there's not a lot to choose between all 4 of them. On their day, any one of them can turn it on.
Let's one last Italian thing, Dom, before we let you go. Let's just take a look at the Serie A standings once again a moment. Obviously, very tight.
1 win in 8, one loss in 8.
Right, there you go. Depends how you spin it. Juventus are sitting 5th at the moment, losing 1-0 today against Parma, Don. It seems to be whatever they do doesn't work out. Whatever changes they make, this seems to be a deep-rooted problem.
Yeah, I mean, Igor Tudor's come in and done an okay job, won a couple of games, drew a game, and you thought things were going to turn around because the football was a lot better, but that's a bad loss. Probably shouldn't have sacked Thiago Motta, but at the same time, they're a team that got battered 4-0 against Atalanta, and it was embarrassing, so they had to sack him after that, especially the amount of draws they've had. So I just think you're looking, that's why Tudor's been brought in. There was a report that he's been paid $500,000 from now to the end of the season to get Juve into the top 4. It's still on. They've got winnable fixtures from now at the end of the season, but it just looks like a squad to me that's just top heavy. Vlahovic is reportedly on £400,000 a week, which is huge for Italian football in terms of salary. So they'll be trying to move him on, whether it's to England or Saudi in the summer. But I think when you look at Juve, it just smacks of a side like Milan that need a massive rebuild.